As Jim Jones watched in complete disbelief on live television, did Chrissy really admit she had gotten married to someone else? Didn't anyone anticipate it? Nor the crowd, nor the presenter, and most certainly not Jim. Chrissy was composed, grinning, and laughing 1 minute. And then she dropped the bomb that ruins families. Jim and I were already legally wed, but not legally. Hold on. What? The blood was actually dripping from Jim's face. People believed it to be a prank. The harm was already done when the producer cut to the advertisement. There was no script for this. There was no plot to this. This was betrayed. In real life, broadcast to the globe at large. Jim just sat there, blinking as if he was having trouble breathing. Since then, the internet has been in flames. This secret hubby is who? Chrissy lied for years. Why? What does this signify for? Jim, who waited more than 10 years to marry her, not just him, promise you that this entire story is about to explode worldwide. Don't blink, because all they've ever built could be destroyed by what comes next. He believed he had everything all out. The legacy, the affection, and the loyalty were meant to be untouchable. However, when the cameras began to film and the reality through shattered smiles and sidelong glances on national television, Jim Jones was subjected to a betrayal so heinous and so widely known that it left the room stunned. It was evident in his eyes, that movement of his jaw. On live television, that quiet moment when everyone witnessed a man realize his eternity simply vanished. Chrissy didn't just do it quickly. Sis ran. While Jim was out here yelling, "We married in spirit," this woman was out here legally marrying someone else in the background. The worst part is that Jim and the others learned about it. There was no heads up, no warning, no "Hey babe, we need to talk." Instead, there was a live broadcast, a scandal, and a man who was totally caught off guard in front of millions. You all recall their troubled past, don't you? Twitter was in a tizzy over the hip-hop and love proposal, the engagement that ended in divorce. There have been years of back-and-forth splits and reconciliations, whispered pledges in studios, and heated fights in dimly lit restaurants. However, this elevated betrayal to a completely new plane. Here's what actually happened. Chrissy has been speaking to someone else for months, according to sources who had been whispering as if they were afraid for their lives. Not innocent emails, not casual flirtation, burner phones, encrypted messages, private jet flights under false pretenses, camels at meals, Turks the complete spy movie package. And you know what? She is allegedly married to a man who is not your typical guy. He has a connection. Quiet money, industry power, the kind that lurks in the background and keeps people out of the tabloids. Chrissy, however, kept her composure. Still smiling at events as if nothing is going on, and still walking the red carpet with Jim. In the meantime, she had already filed the papers for her covert wedding. To escape the media, she allegedly signed off in Puerto Rico using her maiden name. Not even her best friends knew. I thought she was just getting a business license. "Baby, no," remarked one pal, slipping. It was a certificate of marriage. And like a devoted soldier, Jim was out here protecting her reputation. To demonstrate our love, we don't need any paperwork. It was just last month that he told one interviewer he was disregarding that paper the entire time. She signed it with another person already. This is where things start to get messy. The implosion of live television. Both of them were scheduled for a panel. A reunion episode was recorded in Los Angeles. The producers were aware, the network was aware, and they allowed it to occur. A fresh approach to the discussion. Eighth year's top secret celebrity marriages were featured in a special episode. Before a grainy picture appears on the television, everyone is laughing and drinking champagne. Beside a man who isn't Jim is Chrissy, dressed in white. There was silence in the room. Jim's gorgeous face was first bewildered, then stunned, and finally broken. "What is this?" he muttered. He kept turning away from the camera as if someone needed to explain, "Yo, what is this?" Chrissy stopped. She remained silent and didn't even blink. As though she wanted him to learn this way, she sat there with an icy gaze. As you are all aware, the internet never sleeps. Hashtag Chrissy Married became popular in a matter of minutes. Blogs took off. Grainy but sufficiently clear video of the ceremony was leaked and appeared on Reddit. Her mother's clapping voice could be heard in the background. She was complicit as well. Before hurling his microphone across the platform and yelling, "Y'all played with my life for views," Jim rushed off the set, and boy was he right. But let's go back a little. Because Chrissy was planning while Jim was out here doing podcasts and promoting his new album about fidelity. "I gave that man 20 years of my life. I deserve a man who follows through," according to one source. Mate, the math is right, 'cause when you think about it, there have been no weddings in 20 years, only one proposal. Perhaps she was right. However, the execution was blatantly barbaric. Not to mention that Chrissy was never liked by Jim's mother, Nancy, sometimes known as Mama Jones. She said right away that the girl was too cunning. And now Chrissy's new man is already making moves, and Mama Jones is out here on Facebook Live, popping champagne like she won the lottery and shouting, "Told y'all she was no good." The petty is generational. She was seen wearing a diamond anklet and a fresh ring aboard his yacht off the coast of St. Bart's, just a few days after the wedding was made public. Finally, her Instagram story's caption is free. "Free, darling? You?" Simply tossed away 20 years and said it was freedom. But hold on. The temperature drops. Jim was said to have a genuine surprise planned. He had been preparing his own proposal just 2 weeks prior to the live TV presentation. Yes, rumor has it that Jim arranged for a private choir, flew in her best friends, reserved a lavish location in the Maldives, and even selected a 10-carat ring that would make any rapper envious. In order to make up for lost time and solidify their story, he decided to go all out. And that ring is currently gathering dust and regret while it sits in a drawer somewhere. The people in Jim's inner circle are furious. Imagine giving your all to someone who is married to someone else the whole time. Sick world. "No lies detected" was the message in a now-deleted tweet that one of his lads wrote. But here's the real deal. Nothing is being denied by Chrissy. She has actually been liking tweets that claim she completed the necessary tasks. And she bluntly stated, "Sometimes you have to save yourself, even if it breaks a few hearts." Girl. A few in her most recent interview with a dubious gossip blog. A whole man's soul was broken by you. And there is disagreement among supporters, because she chose herself. Some people are referring to her as a queen. Others describe her as calculated, chilly, and a skilled manipulator. It's a battle zone on the timeline. Theories about TikTok, deep digs on Instagram. Both of them are being pulled to hell and back by Twitter threads. One comment went viral saying, "Jim waited too long, now she's gone." Simple math. Another said she was checked out for years, just didn't see it. But now we're wondering, did anyone see it coming? Or was this Chrissy's plan all along to keep the public wrapped up in? Will they or won't they? While covertly rewriting her own ending? In any event, there's no denying that the game has evolved. Jim is no longer the player either. The player is him. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, they do. On national television, poor, naive Jim Jones falls into a trap. As we speak, the audience is up, ready for tea, the cameras are rolling, and the studio lights are scorching. Some claim that the makers were well-versed in their craft. According to some, Chrissy herself planned the entire arrangement with the network. We do know, however, that Jim's entire world began to fall apart the moment he sat down in the interview chair. It started with a straightforward query. "Is there anything new between you and Chrissy, Jim?" "Nah, we're still figuring things out." That's my lady, though. That's wifey, wifey, wifey. He laughed, looked perplexed, and responded, "Baby, the internet exploded." Just an hour prior, an unidentified blog revealed pictures of Chrissy wearing a wedding gown, causing Twitter to go into a panic. Not a fitting, not an old one. A real wedding gown leaving a Miami courthouse with an unidentified man whose hand was clearly not Jim's but whose face was blurry. Furthermore, it would be unrealistic to assume that the time was coincidental. Chrissy is seen in Florida signing a marriage contract, just as Jim is on set declaring to the world that he still has her heart. Documents with a whole different man. What on earth is happening in this Betts soap opera? Let's now discuss that man. At first, nobody knew who he was, until TikTok intervened anyway. In a grainy video, he was seen carrying Chrissy's bouquet as he got into a Rolls-Royce. This is where things get juicy, though. After slowing down the video and zooming in like CSI, one user identified the man's neck tattoo. Boom! The identity was made public. He's Andre Fields, a real estate tycoon from Miami who has a naughty habit of stealing other people's women. Are you curious about the true kicker? Andre and I were once buddies. Beside Jim, yes. Photos and receipts from 2017 show Jim and Andre drinking champagne like brothers while having a good time at a Wynwood club. Chrissy is seated between them in one of them. Either Chrissy cheated on her spouse with one of his old friends, or this whole affair has been simmering for years. It's foul in any case. And the producers realized something was wrong as the TV interview went on. It was evident from the manner they persisted in pressing Jim. Have you recently seen Chrissy? Do you speak every day? Has a ring appeared yet? The man appeared perplexed and attempted to maintain your composure while laughing off the uncomfortable vibes. But you could sense that something wasn't quite right. Then, suddenly, they struck him with it. They play the tape after the host says, "Well, we've got some breaking news footage coming in. We think you should take a look." Jim loses his smile. In the seat, his body moves. Dead quiet. "Wait, that's Chrissy?" the man asks, literally grabbing the microphone. A pin drop could be heard in the studio. In front of a clerk's office, Chrissy was seen on camera embracing Andre. Confetti was present. Bridesmaids were present. "Kiss the bride" was even shouted by someone in the background, and they did. Jim's expression became lifeless. The man appeared to have been struck in the chest. Despite his best efforts, he broke down as he exclaimed, "Yo, this isn't real. This has got to be fake, right?" The host remained silent, simply gazed while Jim's eyes began to water and the camera focused on them. Social media went crazy. By the next second, comments were pouring in. Jim didn't learn about his girl's marriage on live television. She had moved on from him. He simply did not wish to witness it. You don't squander 19 years on a maybe because of this. Of course, people were picking sides. She had every right to move on, according to Team Chrissy. For decades, he had been dragging her along. She asked him to marry her. What woman would do that and yet be left in the dark? Team Jim, meanwhile, claimed that she had cheated on him. Without any prior notice or communication, she secretly married another man. It was being devoured by the internet like Sunday brunch. Let's not overlook the leaks, though. Yes, as soon as the interview aired, the leaks began to come in. A supposed bridesmaid from Chrissy's group who got last-minute audio of Chrissy discussing her wedding arrangements was leaked weeks ago. Andre is aware of his desires. As she states in the video, "I'm done waiting for a man who can't make decisions. I'm done trying to justify myself." Whoosh. Now, the treachery struck in a different way. This was not an impromptu moment. This was no quick getaway in Vegas. Chrissy had calculated and planned this. She was fully aware of her actions. She didn't simply go on. She deliberately scheduled her new marriage to make Jim look bad. Why, though? are the cameras rolling? Some claim it's retaliation, some claim it's control. However, one notion is making the rounds in the fictitious streets of Reddit. All of this was done as a show. Yes, according to rumors. Her producers wanted a dramatic premiere for the reality show New Wife, Old Life, which Chrissy and Andre signed a deal with a new network for. A surprise wedding that destroys your ex's entire reputation on national television. What could be more shocking? Additionally, Jim did not return home following the interview. No, he allegedly got into a heated phone argument with his manager. After storming off set, screaming, "She really did that to me. She really aired me out like that." He was pacing the parking lot for an hour, kicking the curb and tossing his hat, muttering, "It's always the ones you ride for who stab you the deepest," was allegedly captured by one cameraman. Chrissy hasn't made any public statements, tweeted or shared an Instagram story, or posted anything on her grid other than a picture of her hand with a huge wedding ring and the caption. Finally, cue internet meltdown. Jim's fans were livid. This woman used him for clout, and now she's flexing like she won the lottery. Chrissy's supporters responded, "She waited 20 years. Secondly, she is worthy of happiness." Additionally, as the internet quarreled, a waiter who worked the wedding uploaded a new video from the occasion. In the video, Chrissy makes a toast to letting go of the past and, for once, choosing herself. Everyone gave a clap. The camera switched to a clock-shaped cake as Andre planted a kiss on her cheek. Dead. Simply dead. Even generally unbiased blogs were unable to resist. It was only the beginning, but one headline said, "Chrissy marries Jim Jones, her former friend, while he still calls her wifey on national TV. Ultimate plot twist or petty revenge." It was chaos because Jim's next action was unexpected. Social media became a battlefield as soon as Chrissy left the stage. Hashtags went viral. Pray for Jim. Hashtag Chrissy exposed. Hashtag cheated. Hashtag Chrissy. However, the person Chrissy married was a surprise to everyone. It was more than a casual private matter. No, the individual in question is a former VH1 producer. Yes, the same network that popularized Jim and Chrissy. The worst part is still to come. In the past, this man, let's call him Rico, is said to have been the one who persuaded Jim to pop the question to Chrissy on television. Talk about betrayal that goes full circle. During post-production, Rico and Chrissy became close, according to an unnamed crew member. Very near, although we all saw it, we assumed it was merely Hollywood teasing. None of us anticipated that she would wed the man while still bearing Jim's name. Imagine Jim sitting in his dressing room, still in shock from the TV onslaught. He mutters, "There's no way. There's no way this is a real man." The cameras were off, and he has his hands on his head while swinging a chain. However, someone leaked a voice note into it, and this is where things get messy. Jim can be heard talking to a close buddy in a whisper. "What does loyalty today look like? I gave her everything and created her, and now she's married to the same guy who used to bring me coffee on set." It hit the friend hard when he said, "Bro, she'd been gone. You just don't want to see it." This was hardly an impromptu betrayal. Jim was the last to learn about the years-long, slow, and silent estrangement taking place behind the scenes. Chrissy was seen boarding a private plane to St. Farts with Rico, her purported new spouse. And guess what? If you thought that was awful, the diamond bracelet that Jim had given her following his 2018 music comeback performance was still on her. That small detail, yes, it drove supporters into a tailspin. Not her on vacation with Rico wearing Jim's jewelry. One tweet cried out, "Fill-in behavior is what that is." However, it didn't stop there. Tamika, Chrissy's close friend, went live from her hotel room and revealed more information than anyone could have imagined. Expected. "Not even half of it is known by you all," Tamika started. "Chrissy has been removed from that partnership. Not going to die waiting for Jim to marry me. She told me 2 years ago. I'm going to marry myself or someone I truly want to marry." She obviously meant it. However, Jim isn't remaining silent anymore. His Instagram profile displayed a mysterious story. It's not love, despite the black background and white writing. Loyalty as opposed to affection. Be careful who you build with. Millions of admirers suddenly descended upon his comment area, pleading for responses. However, the harm had already been done. This is where the narrative takes a risky turn. Jim's team allegedly sought a restraining order against Rico rather than Chrissy. According to sources, Jim feels that this was manipulation rather than merely betrayal. One representative, Rico, was familiarly adjacent, he added, and he was. In our group, he destroyed something sacred by using his access. Furthermore, Rico's former girlfriend Jess, he had once showed up out of nowhere with voicemails, Ms. receipts, and even a grainy picture of Rico and Chrissy on what appeared to be a hotel balcony. This went beyond simple infidelity. This was a conspiracy. And now everything was being exposed. However, Jim's mother, Nancy, well known as Mama Jones, gave her first public speech, which was possibly the most heartbreaking moment. "I told my son years ago, Chrissy, didn't I? She doesn't care about our family, and now she's done embarrassed him on TV." She said that with tears in her eyes and rage in her voice. "I hope she enjoys that man because she just lost a real one." Her admirers, particularly hip-hop fans and old-school lovers, came together to support her. "We were instructed by Mama Jones Ben. She always saw through Chrissy's act," one admirer said. Yet her camp was clapping back while the internet was berating Chrissy. Are you really upset that a grown woman chose herself? Perhaps if Jim had signed that marriage license 10 years ago, none of this would have happened. Get over it. Chrissy's stylist tweeted a dubious tweet, and the conflict went on. It was being devoured by blogs. Breakdowns were being performed by YouTubers. Even former co-stars began to weigh in. In a since-deleted tweet, Yandere Smith said, "Karma spins like a DJ. Hope everyone's watching the set." Oh no. VH1 insiders, meanwhile, asserted that the whole disaster was a component of a botched reboot proposal. Yes, exactly. There are speculations that Chrissy and Jim were asked to make a comeback to television. A phony vow renewal that ended badly and a covert wedding betrayal. However, it became genuine at some point. Was this a planned incident? Or did the script just get out of hand with reality? Here's an additional layer. Chrissy altered her legal last name weeks prior to the TV taping, according to a document that has reportedly surfaced. You know whose last name she adopted? Yes, Rose. This demonstrates one thing. Actually, Jim was the last to find out. He was caught off guard not only in a figurative sense, but also legally, emotionally, and professionally. Now the query regarding Lips of All. What comes next? Will Jim release a diss tune to make a comeback? Will Rico and Chrissy be interviewed? Will the makers of Hip Hop and Love make this a limited series? No one is aware. One thing is certain though. The truth is more repulsive than anyone could have ever imagined. The streets are talking and blogs are exploding. And since Jim's next move will determine everything, all eyes are on him right now. This scandal hasn't even ended yet, so stay tuned.